you go far south.
He lived in Florida.
Boy, I tell you what, the medical care up here is so much better.
Oh, really?
Right.
You wouldn't imagine that, but yeah, it was really true.
I live in Clark. I grew up in Bear County in Bethlehem.
Yeah. We got about 30
3 years
seconds
ago. So we had about 20 acres, give or take, maybe a little less than that we sold. And those it's just, I mean, this is just outside between the little town of Bethlehem and
Give her a minute to get situated and
oh, there's a developer, Wayne,
Which I think I had everything set up.
what's that?
Yeah.
I know, right?
But anyway, he bought it. Those houses are going for $2,000.
We trust you. You got it all together.
Yeah.
Hello, Sylvia.
Right.
How are you?
I think I'm saying right.
Well, I'm about we
Yeah.
the preliminary cut back.
Get off another one now.
And they all have to be.
Right.
And digital copies as well.
All right, it's 6 o'clock, and I want to call this meeting to order and welcome each and every one of you here this evening. For our first meeting of the year of 2023. Hope each and every one had a great holiday and a little bit of a break. Time for everybody to get back to work now, I guess. Whatever work is to you. I try not to do a whole lot.
You're our hero.
Right. No problem.
So, if you would please, as normal, stand and join the word of prayer, and then we'll get started. Let's pray. Eternal God, our Father, one that has control of everything. Our Father, we thank you for carrying us through the year of 2022 and letting us see 2023. Our Father, we thank you for all that you have done for us and all that you're going to do for us in the future. Our Father, we ask that you get in our minds, instilling us to do the proper thing, that we may help our county move forward. Our Father, I ask you to bless each and every one of the sound of my voice, but not only the one of the sound of my voice, but everyone in this entire world. Because our Father, we know we can do nothing without thee. Our Father, we'll be so careful to give you all the glory, honor, and praise. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, let's see here. I used to didn't have to do this, but as the days go by, you have to do something different. All right, I think all of you have gotten the minutes of December 6th and the minutes of December 20th. I had a chance to look them over. At this point, I will ask for a motion to approve those minutes of those last two meetings.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Kenneth.
Mr. Chairman, second.
Second by Candy. Any discussion? Not, we'll take a vote. We'll start with Candy.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Minutes are approved. Yes. I did forget one thing. For those of you, we're just the same old people here, but I was going to let the planning and zoning introduce themselves. Starting with Gandy.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Bruce Kennedy, District 5.
Cynthia Fortson, elected by the committee.
Kenneth Bradley, District 1.
Canola Scott, Chair, appointed by the Chairman of the Board of Commissioners.
Lee Mitchell, District 2.
and William Smith, District 4.
Tracy Patrick, Zone Administrator.
Okay. With that, we will move on. Thank you so much. New business. Review of the final plat for the Madison Preserve subdivision. Mr. Abe, you want to come forward and tell us what you want us to know? I think this is one that we've been working on for a while.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Thank you for allowing us to be here this evening. My name is Abe Abu-Hamdan. The address 2410 Hog Mountain Road, Suite 103, Walkersville, Georgia. It's always a pleasure to come to see y'all. I know a lot of folks probably don't take pleasure sometimes to come here because, you know, sometimes it's not the best that's going to happen here with the rezones or various requests. But I do want you to know that we appreciate your service, no matter what you do. I've served and continue to serve a lot of boards, and I did drop off certain boards because it got too busy. And you volunteered. The pay is just satisfaction and giving back to your community. So thank you for your time and what you do here in Madison County. What I'd like to do is put the board up, Mr. Chairman, here, just be a second. And y'all are very familiar with this project, and what we're doing right now, we're going through the final plat process.
Oh, you're fine. You need me to move this thing back?
I think it's good there. And you got this probably in your package about email, or Ms. Patrick probably sent that over. I'm just trying to put that matter to speak here from. So, the subdivision is laid out just like it was approved by, Planning Commission members and also by commissioners as far as preliminary plat layout. Nothing has changed in terms of that layout to meet those requirements. And you gentlemen, folks, and ladies, y'all know that when we look through with that process, this is the overall layout here. There were a couple of conditions placed as part of the approval. And one of them was to make sure the water system is adequate for the authority, Water Sewerage Authority. And we've been working with them. The other one, of course, dealing with the roads and making sure the roads are third-party tested. I know Mr. Mitchell, a couple of other commissioners might have attended the Board of Commissioners meeting, and that was, and I know the chair was there as well. So it was discussed. So as far as the roadways, in your packet, you will see that we did, as recommended, we went through and got, the subdivision randomly tested all those red spots, and you've got that report from GeoHydro in your packet as well. And obviously, it's clear that, the pavement range from 1.5 inches to 2.5. That's the standard. You can't get perfect to 1 inch everywhere. You can't get perfect 2.5 or 1.5. As you compact it, you're going to get that variation. But also, as well as GAD.
I didn't put that in because we didn't have a copy of it. It was in the, I believe it's the digital one that I sent.
It should have.
So these are just our copies, but I do need one of them back.
I'll be glad to turn this.
Okay.
But you have it digitally as well.
Yes.
How many do you have?
If you need more, then I've got here.
Oh, so we need to share.
So you got 2 minutes?
No, they don't have one. We can share it.
Yeah.
We'll share one now.
Here. Yeah, I got 2 minutes. Okay.
Another problem. So as you can see on that report, so when you put GAB down at 18 inch, they pack it for all that, it's going to move, and over time is also settled. So you got from 6.5 to 8+ inches. And that was the spec for that subdivision. When the roads were constructed, it was 8 and 2, 8 inch GAB, 2 inch of asphalt. And obviously, that is true of this nominal one. If it were 6 and 2, for example, you're gonna see something from like 5 1/4, 5 1/2, up to 6 1/2, 6 3/4. So just because nobody's perfect, and if I'm arguing down, and we didn't do this, this is a third party, obviously, as recommended by the board, that's Geohydro, a third party, testing firm that did that. If you're arguing to hit a rock, and, you may stop there, or if you go a little bit too far, it may be a little bit more, so, but clearly, that GAB was 8-inch base and 2-inch for the asphalt, which met that requirement that the board wanted to confirm as far as the roads. Now, as you folks know, the condition came with also not a 1-year bond on the roads. It was extended to 4-year bond. So anything happens between the approval process, once we get the final plat and 4 years later, the owner of this subdivision will have to fix the roads, bring them up to speed, get them repaired, whatever may be necessary at that time. The road department superintendent, Mr. Allen, I can't pronounce his name, I apologize. We had engaged him, of course. He was present at testing, and he should have sent a letter to Mr.
I have it in your packet. I also have the conditions that the Board of Commissioners put on it, on the 8/1/22 and from the 9/13/21. They're also in that packet, the ones that he is referring to.
Yes, ma'am.
It's
So,
in the packet that had this on the top.
so Mr. Allen, like I said, he was involved in the testing, made sure that, his random saw in his eyes what they were already doing in the field pouring pavement. So that clearly meets that requirement, but that 4-year bond extension is really, it's a fantastic measure for the county to ensure 4 years down the road after acceptance, which could be, a month or so, that if once it's approved, recorded, that clock starts. And most of the construction, as I mentioned, the Board of Commissioners, is going to happen in the first couple of years. So all this heavy construction, traffic, concrete trucks, delivering bricks, whatnot, that's going to take place at that time. And the county, Mr. Allen, will be able to go out there and will, inspect the roads and mark what needs to be done and, all the repairs made, if not, you've got a bond to rebuild pretty much the road. So, to cover that cost. So that part, we feel we've addressed just like as it required by the condition placed by the Board of Commissioners. So as far as the layout, as I mentioned earlier, we really, nothing has changed from what you see. We still got the 3-acre parcel along Kincaid, Old Kincaid. And also we have that 50-foot buffer right there, the 25-foot buffer along here. So other than that, all the lots meet that requirements as you've seen it before. 1.5 acre minimum beyond any drainage easements, ponds, or buffers, or flood zone. So all that was corrected, and that's what you have blessed, and nothing has changed. In the process, what we have done is gone back, of course, to do a final plat. You've got to set all the pins, all the corner pins on every lot have been set in the field, in state. So if you go out there now, you will see our rebar with a cap with our, state registration number embedded on it. So for all those lots, at every corner of that subdivision. So that has been completed, and that's also needed for environmental health to do their own review and know where they are, what lot they're looking at. So I'll jump to that part. So that part has been completed. We've also done the as-built, and I've got a board right behind that covers that part, and it was submitted to the commission as well. And I won't go into details, but all the stormwater lines have been checked and as built. The ponds have been cleaned. And also a couple of them adjusted. The outlet structures have been poured properly to take care of the water quality. So all those measures have been completed in the field. And all the water meters have been adjusted, a couple of them, 2 of them we did not find, I think they're under debris. We're gonna make sure we take care of that for the water meters. So the second condition really dealt with the water system that has to be checked, tested, chlorinated, plus chlorinated, and, also where a bacteria sample is taken out for after you do all of that. So to let you know, it has been flushed, has been pressure tested, it has been chlorinated. There is water in the line as we speak, full pressure. The only item they have not gotten was the bacteria testing. So that's the samples we're waiting on results to give to Mr. Schubert. And as you know, we've been trying to deal with the authority, but they've had a pretty big change in staff. I won't go into details of that, but we've had a hard time really getting a lot of response, and I'm not saying that to blame. I'm just saying it's just a little difficult with the holidays and the short staff and the changing direction, the directives there. So, but Mr. Schubert's been very helpful, and he said as soon as he received that bacteria letter, that it's okay, he's still with it, he will get us a letter to that effect. But the line, the water meters we've done all that through the water system. It is sufficient, it is the size, it is the correct gauge or thickness. It's a 6-inch, and it is the R14 or the thicker pipe that they require. So we've potholed these. They've actually come out to the site, looked at it with the owner, and verified that information. So really, what we're lacking is the letter from them saying we're okay. We know we've been working with them, but I don't have that today. We are very hopeful we'll be, forthcoming here next week or so at the latest. And the last part that was not really part of the condition is, as you know, because this is not a sewer subdivision, it's on septic systems, and we've done a tremendous amount of work out there. We actually have done a lot of backhoe pits, to do level 4s, not just level 3. Working back and forth with environmental health, Ms. Kelly Henson, she's the director for Northeast Georgia. I'm sure y'all know her. So she's been reviewing the soil overlay, and she actually sent us a preliminary approval letter that's saying 60 lots. We see no problem there. Now we just have to tell you what codes to put on each lot, whether you have a drip repair or, certain limitations they may have. But we've done several, probably close to 60 plus, backhoe pits, that's test pits. And if you're not familiar with the level 3, level 4 soil testing, usually you're going to alter about 2 inch or 2.5 inch, and you do 4 per acre, to see roughly you map the soils what you got. And when you do level 4, you're going to do close to 16 holes per acre. Or you could do backhoe testing. Backhoe testing gives you a lot better view. This is higher, more costly, but when you look into a soil out of a 2-inch hole versus, big hole from a backhoe, you're able to see the strata all the way down and clearly better visual to what you're classifying. So we've done that to the point where she was comfortable to issue that letter, and I did forward that letter to Ms. Patrick. You have it in your packet. If you don't, I have a couple here. So I think, we feel comfortable that moving forward, we're not going to see any issues with the loss. Like I said, she has approved that. The only thing she would be coding the loss of any certain requirements based on the soils. She was very pleased to see that the size, of the lots went from literally about less than half You know, and we have some lots in access of three times as much today versus what was approved previously and recorded. Excuse me. So, Mr. Chairman and the board, I'll be glad to answer any questions, but what we'd like to see, hopefully, if we can move forward. We know there is another major stop with the Board of Commissioners, but the hefty lifting is done. We're dealing with minor. It's just that Florida department that we just have to get that letter from them, but we have no issues, or we're pretty certain that there's no issues with water. It's just a matter of testing in a bacteria sample. And if you're familiar with water system, if it's not, you flush it again, you chlorinate it, and then you test it again. It's not like the system fails or there's a problem with it. It's just a matter of making sure that water is clean. What happens when you start adding, you know, a new water meter into a water line? You introduce dirt, basically, and dirt gives you bacteria and other stuff, and you flush it, you chlorinate it, you test it, and that's not clear enough. You can't use it for consumption. You can't start using it for houses. So that's, you know, we want to make sure that's that part is complete. But as far as the integrity of the line, you know, it's more than adequate. The size is what's required today, and it's the spec of the ductile iron. It is PVC, but it is the thicker pipe, so as they require today. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I'm gonna have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
On the big A2 lots,
Yes.
where's the entrance is entrance coming off the cul-de-sacs to the back lots?
On this here,
Yeah, on the A2 lots right there, them.
right there. There's access right here, and there's access right there,
Oh, okay.
and there's access right there. It's exactly like y'all had before.
Yeah, I know,
It's hard to see.
it's hard to see, figure out on.
Yes, sir. These are just as big as lots, that, you know, the entrance for it, because we have to put the minimum lot width on those lots. So that's why you see them, they're fairly wide. They're almost a lot, you know, by themselves, but, you know,
So
that's
there's two entrances side by side.
right here. Yes, sir.
And the second question was, I know it's got on the environmental health that all ditches and gullies not reflect on primary prep. They supposed to be backfilled with soil, right?
Well, Mr. Bradley,
It's actually number 2 on the environmental health.
mhm.
I know a lot of times you hear they put like old tree stumps and stuff like that in the ditches and fill them up, cover them up, and later on they come back and it's not feasible. That's not gonna be happening.
That's not what she referred to, and that's not what's happening here.
Okay.
Commissioner, I think what she refers to, when you have a topography, they really, the environmental health, they walk the site. And if you don't have the slightest ditch, you know, for some reason shown on their overlay that we gave them, which is this big document here.
Yeah.
You know, they say, okay, show us that little ditch right here. But it's not about whether it's buried stuff in a ditch or something like that. Yes, sir. Yes.
Any additional questions?
I have
Go ahead.
one.
Yes.
Well, I'm thinking back when we originally was presented with this, and, there was 3 lots where it says, where that lot 1 is off of, Old Kincaid.
Yes, ma'am.
So you guys just decided to do something, make that one big lot?
Yes, so when we came back, if you remember, the commissioners, when they
I believe that was one of
approved
the conditions.
yes,
So,
Conditions on the preliminary.
Right,
So that-
preliminary, to do away with those.
that's right.
so was there not a roundabout or a U where it comes out into the traffic, the driveway? Was that, no, I'm up, go further.
That lot number 1.
Oh, no,
Right up in the corner,
okay,
right, yeah, right there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we will have a hammerhead, what we refer to, and that was part of the condition
Right.
on that lot.
Oh,
So
okay.
people turn around on the property and go forward, not backing up into the street.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
We did that.
all right.
That would be part of the site plan when You know, because now this is such a large lot, this
Yeah.
5+ acres, you know what I mean? So we'll have a plan, and of course, planning department will be looking at that site plan with the septic system on it at the appropriate time, whenever they're trying to pull a permit. That's what they'll be checking for that hammerhead. But it is, a condition will take care of that.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Any additional questions?
I have one. Can you point out the areas that would be considered common areas? And the reason I'm asking that is in the upper left-hand corner, there's a little lot.
Right there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
That says that it'll be owned by the HOA and managed by the HOA.
And just like this one here, unless this one is sold to the neighbors, we mentioned, if that happened to be sold, then that's fine. If not, this and this would be common ownership for the subdivision. So it'd be owned, maintained by the subdivision as outlawed.
And can you're talking about being owned by the HOA?
Yes,
It
sir.
would be deeded to the HOA.
Correct.
And the HOA would be responsible for taxes or maintenance.
Absolutely, whatever it may be necessary.
But those are the only areas.
Yes, sir, that's the
that
only.
fit that category. All of the other detention ponds, things like that are built into lots.
But they will be maintained also. They're not public facilities like this. I mean, of course, the county has an easement and access rights to that pond, every pond. Every pond has access from the public roadway. But in terms of a lot or outlot, there's that one and that one. The other ones are facilities, even though they're on the lot, they have an easement encompassing them.
But even though these detention ponds are part of a lot,
Yes,
correct? They're owned by, I guess, the homeowner.
homeowners association, well, maintained by the homeowners
Right, but
association.
they're owned by the homeowner.
Correct. Yes. Now, they'll do special between the owner and HOA as far as that. I mean, or when the owner sells that lot or the developer to someone. Of course, that's recorded and conveyed that there's an easement, just like we see it here. That's what it'll be on the plat. This is the final plat. Of course, I didn't give you all the sheets. This is just the overall. You've got the figures.
And the same with the dam on the pond, is that considered a common area as well?
The dam is not.
Or
It's
is that
actually
part of one of those lots?
part of these lots, yes, sir. So the dam, this is the access here to this lot, and this is part of these lots. And there's a 50-foot here, as was recommended to maintain.
We probably covered that back on the preliminary.
Yes, sir.
And I don't remember all that as well.
I just wanted to make sure.
So those have easements?
Yes, ma'am.
Additional questions?
Just as much from my own knowledge as anything, you were talking about the soil and the testing, the backhoe testing that's on this?
Test pits.
Okay, a test pit. So how many of those are conducted? I mean, you talked about a number that was done on a lot, depending upon level 2 or 3 or whatnot. But when we're doing a development such as this, how many did that require for this?
Well, the test pits are not required at all, straight out.
Okay.
You're required to do 4 test holes per acre.
4 per acre.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So that was already done previously, completed to the environmental health requirements. But we felt like because there are certain areas that was low or wet, or, we wanted to make sure that when we laid out the lots, we don't have a problem with any of them. So we took the extra measure of hiring a backhoe and did test pits, which is really the highest level of doing soil testing. And we did several of those, with them in. So you see these gray areas here, we tested here. We tested here.
Okay.
So, but we do it in coordination with environmental health, because when you go and do more than 4 test holes per acre, you're gonna go to level 4. Level 3 is your normal required for any subdivision or any lot. It doesn't have to be subdivision, any lot to put a septic system on.
And this level of scrutiny was due to the composition when it was looked at or developed previously, is that correct? Trying to go back in my
Sure.
memory bank of this, when this was developed, it was a much more intensive development.
Yes, sir, it was. So a lot of the lots would have had, for example, drip repair, or some of them would have drip primary system. As you know, in the septic system, the environmental health requirements, you have a primary system that you put in when you build the house, but you have to have a repair field reserve being. So if that one fails, you know, you have another location on site already approved to put another system in, okay? So when they saw a lot of that, gonna have either drip repair, and a drip system is very costly. So if you're spending about $8,000 to $10,000 a system now, you're gonna spend more than twice on a drip. So you wanna avoid those in the primaries for sure. Then we noticed we may have more than we'd like to see on the primaries. So we took the advantage in working with environmental health, and also to feel better about the lots that we would lay out and present and record, that we have better soil data, therefore better lot layout. So that's the reason we went to the extent of piling up and making sure we tested those questionable areas, if you wish to call it. So we know more about it, and that's to that level.
I'm sorry some of this is redundant, but it's been a little while and this is.
Sure. No problem.
I know it was some questions that we had as far as the developer who was doing this, but the world and specifically the housing market's changed with interest rates. And I don't remember, does this development give the rights for him to be able to sell lots?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It is. What we fixed is the square footage.
Okay.
And the brackets of that. So that is part of this whole approval for this subdivision. There are certain number have to be 1,800 square feet, certain number have to be 2,000, 2,100, certain number have to be 23. I don't have that with me, but it is part of the whole approval by Board of Commissioners.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter who is going to touch it, they have to follow those requirements that we provided to you. And they are part of the covenants, you've seen them.
Actually, we just got that, Tracy has a copy of the covenants. That was one of the questions I was going to have tonight because we hadn't received that yet.
And this is the same that you have before.
Okay.
It's always a draft until the final plat.
Okay.
You record it when you record the plat, as Mr. Attorney here would tell you. So, very good questions, yes.
Going back to the septic system,
Yes.
that is controlled by the health department, right?
Yes, sir, that's totally controlled.
Totally controlled by them.
I mean,
You don't have
the
to follow
county
that
will-
guideline.
Right. They are they're strict, and very careful, and very diligent. And you could see, we've been working on it since we left the board way back. And you see when we got to this point with them, to get this letter of approval.
And the water system is the Madison County water system,
Water
not a
system.
private water provider.
No, it will be the county
Madison County
water
water
system. Yes, sir. Water Sewer Authority.
So the backup system will be both identified on the property, right?
Well, no, this doesn't play any role at this stage.
Oh, yeah.
This is really when the house needs to be built on this lot.
Yeah.
The environmental health will tell you, okay, show me where you're putting your house, show me where you're putting your primary, show me where you're putting your, repair system, future system, engagement. But at this stage, they make sure each lot has adequate soil, suitable soil.
Right.
And the reason I was telling you they're very pleased, because they had literally a third of a lot of this size here. That was a lot before, like a single lot that you could build a house on. And they were gonna have a lot of trouble making that work, especially if you start putting 4 or 5 bedroom homes, So that's all under the umbrella of the environmental health.
Okay, any additional questions for Ms. Dave?
I do, if I may.
Okay.
Just for the sake of minute keeping, we circle back around to one of the first statements you had made, and it was concerning something about 8-inch and 2-inch asphalt, and that was at the time. Can you please elaborate so I can,
Absolutely.
put that down?
Yes, ma'am. So when the subdivision was approved, the regulations at that time by the county was to require 8-inch of GAB, graded aggregate base. So this is the rock in a gravel under the pavement,
Okay.
8-inch. And they require 2-inch of asphalt on top of it,
Okay.
okay? So when you sit there and mash it, compact it, even if it sits by nature, it just, settles. I mean, if you do something in the yard over time, it's gonna settle. So that was a requirement at that time by the county, and that was built to that standard.
And so I was just looking back on Alan's letter that he submitted. And I was just wondering in relation, how was that working? Because he wasn't sure of what those regulations were at that time, but he was just stating what they are now.
Okay, right.
So I just wanted to make sure we had at that time.
Okay, so also if you continue to read,
Uh-huh.
at the end of that paragraph, he said, if it doesn't meet current one with the 4-year bond, that takes care of that concern.
Absolutely.
So, because we're not building a new roads,
Right.
we are taking roads and putting that 4-year bond.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were building a new road, you will need 6-inch of rock or gravel, GAB, 2-inch of binder, and 1.5-inch of asphalt. So less gravel, more asphalt, okay? So that subdivision was built up to a standard that was acceptable to the county at that time when it was approved and recorded.
What year was that, Abe? Was it
2006, I believe.
2000?
I was gonna say 7 or 8.
Seven, maybe seven.
Somewhere in there.
It was built in 6, so 7 or 8.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so if it weren't approved at that time, it couldn't be recorded. So it had to be county requirements.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll make
So
that.
I hope I
in
covered
our
your
rec- Yes,
question.
sir, you did. Thank you.
So rather than going by the new regulations, you're giving this 4-year bond in case there is a problem.
Exactly, and that was all worked out at the preliminary plat
Right.
stage. Right.
It's nothing new. This is something the Board of Commissioners approved.
Right.
And that was at the August 1st, Mike, when that was approved.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
It's the
I went
last
back on
commission.
the minutes, and I didn't see that, but that's why I
This
was
is back in
wanting to
the-
make sure.
Well, let's see, yeah, I've got your August 1st minutes, so, these are just listing the added conditions. That 4-year bond was already, yeah, it was already in the letter, that's
And
right.
I put the 9/13/21 minutes that were in there too, because they had, it was conditions on that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
September
minutes from
21.
the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah.
Oh, here, no, that's just the rest of August 1st.
It may be the next one. Yes, that's it right there, Mike.
No, this is my agenda.
I'm sorry. Okay, that's what it looks like. I apologize.
Okay, any additional questions from the board?
I don't think I got the,
Anything we need clarified or whatever for Mr. Abe? I think he's done a fantastic job here, laying out what we need to know. That's one, before we move forward on this, is I believe we have 30 days to approve this from this point to the commission. But we can, for the sake of moving it forward, we can, if everybody's happy with what you heard, or give approval to what you heard, to go ahead and vote on it tonight, and then it can move forward much quicker. But I'm gonna leave that up to the board as to, do you need time to, I mean, we've heard a lot of stuff tonight, decipher all of this, or are you ready to proceed and let Mr. Abe go on, and we'll present it to the commissioners so they can take it up on the night?
it's
Totally
Again,
again.
it sounds like staff has reviewed everything and verified conditions are met with the exception of that outstanding bacteriological, which hopefully it would be here by the Board of Commissioners meeting. Worst case scenario, if it's not, the Board of Commissioners could approve contingent on or conditional on a satisfactory bacteriological being received. And then whenever it comes in, it just goes.
Let me hear from you. All right, Bruce.
One other question, I noticed that you were talking about getting a certification letter from Mr. Schubert.
Yes.
For the third.
On the water system. Yes, Mr. Schubert has taken the role now as, well, I don't know the director or assistant or temporary director. I don't know the position, but I know he's the man we've been working with since we've been working on the water line. And he will be getting a letter indicating that everything is A-okay with the water system. I know he's checked mark a lot, but he hasn't gotten that bacteria test, that he don't want to issue that letter and just he doesn't have that bacteria test. But this is the simplest of anything that you do in a water system.
But he's already verified, I'm asking this as a question, I think, but Mr. Schubert's already verified the R14, the pipe sizes and all of
He
that.
has.
Okay.
We polled, they came on physically to the site and they looked at the pipe and
Okay.
verified all that.
Okay, that's what I thought.
If in fact the board wanted to move forward with this tonight, you can move forward with conditions of that coming in.
Right, yeah, I'm not sure what I think, if we have something from Mr. Schubert saying the only thing we're waiting on is the bacteriological, then that's easy, because the bacteriological test is a yes/no. If it's a yes, we go. If it's a no, then they flush it again and get the yes.
Coordinate and do it again. So it's nothing about the system.
Yeah.
And we don't have a problem, Mr. Chairman, if there's a condition saying, if that's not satisfied by the Board of Commissioners meeting, that will have to be tabled at that stage until such.
Or again, they can approve it with that condition.
Or they can approve it with that
Yeah.
condition.
Conditions just need to be, they need to be yes/no answers, but the bacteria test is a yes/no answer. So.
I guess my point is, I'm kind of leaning toward, let's move this thing along if we can, simply because we've been waiting so long for this, all this, and they've done a tremendous job in getting it ready. But if you guys are not ready, then, we're legally have the time to wait for it. So, I want to know what your thinking is.
My thinking is that I would move forward with condition that those two letters be presented at the commissioners, Board of Commissioners.
Now, you said two letters,
It's
you
just
said
one
just
letter.
one.
Oh, okay, I thought
For
that the water
testing.
system, we have a water system letter, but he just did not confirm it because of the bacteria.
Right.
Yes, he won't do the letter until he sees the bacteria, just because it's part of the whole.
So that would be two.
I'll make them, can I ask a question?
Sure. Before you do that.
William's been looking at the covenants, and I've just been glancing at them as well. I just want to make sure. I know the county would not police the covenants. That's going to be for the homeowners association to do that. But, so there's no reason for us to review this other than just to have the knowledge of what's in here. To question anything in here would not be.
That's an odd, and I'll say this with an invitation to Abe to clarify if need be, but it probably in most counties Abe works in, everything that's submitted is automatically a condition. Since that's not the case in Madison County, probably those recordation of those covenants could also be made a condition of approval of the final plat.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sure.
I think, as y'all remember, we did a clarification letter, and I know, like I said, this has been a lengthy process. And we clarified in the letter form.
Is that already in that letter?
Yes, sir.
And I'll just say, Tracy, that's what's missing also on these minutes, is there's reference to that letter, but we don't actually have that letter. But if you have that letter, that has those conditions that he's talking about.
Okay, all right.
It's already in our clarification letter to the.
Okay, so that's already a
That was
condition.
approved part of the whole process. So there's nothing new that you see in the draft covenants or the covenants that we have not already presented in the form of a clarification letter to y'all and to the board of commissioners.
That rings a
That's
bell.
all.
You're right, I had forgotten that.
That was done during the preliminary plat process, right?
Yes,
Exactly, that's right.
Guess it's been so long, I forgot.
Yeah, I didn't remember, but I'm glad they did this.
Okay, I'll leave it up to the board, if you want to move forward and vote on it tonight, or I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat with the condition that the water bacteria sample, yes or no.
Yes, I think that'd be yeah.
Motion by Kevin,
And hopefully it's here by then anyway.
I'll second.
second by Cynthia. Any other questions, comments, or discussion before we vote? Cynthia?
Yes.
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 And I just needed to know from the wording of this, so you're to approve the final plat with the condition that the bacteriological testing results are in and the letter is received from the water department. Would that be fair to say, Mike? Or how would you word that?
Yeah, that's fine. I'd say, if you want to say both of those, I'd say a satisfactory bacteriological test results,
Okay.
and approval letter from the IDBA. That covers it. It'll really all come in one.
If the letter is gonna issue, will be based on the bacteria.
Exactly, that's right.
And the whole system.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's right. If you want to simplify it, again, rewording y'all's motion, it would basically just be approval and acceptance from the IDBA.
Okay. And that's before the board of commissioner meeting.
Right. Everybody satisfied with this?
Is the development, it's open now? I haven't been by, like I said, I mean,
You know, sometimes when they open, when they're doing some work there,
Okay.
if you need to go through, we'll
Not-
have to unlock it.
I'm asking for permission because I want to learn, and this is our first one, and obviously this has been a little bit more of a drawn-out process. I want to see what you're talking about, where they've been marked, look at the soil samples.
You'll see a stake.
Absolutely,
in
and just
the ground.
verify those type of things for my own
Of course,
knowledge.
of course. So if you go out there, it's not that there's a cable or a cross with a lock. It's just we want to keep illegal dumping in there and other activities that.
Well, I'm just announcing that I will be out there.
Yes, sir.
In the weeks to
Please.
check it out.
Please do, yeah.
I'll start fixing your four-wheeler and dig up the line.
You know, just to give you guidance, if you go, you'll see a stake or a corner of a lock. So if you go right by it, either there's a flag tied to the pin, or you will see a yellow cap or orange cap, and underneath that is a rebar.
Sure.
And our cap will say ABE Consulting on it, or ABE, and it'll have our number. So each lot will have a marker, and that's the proper survey. Now, not every surveyor does it that way, but we do it that way. So you may find a bent rod, you may find a pipe, I mean, y'all have seen them all kinds of shape before. That's what you'll be looking for.
Thank you, Ms. A.
Thank you.
Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Fraser, what are we to do with, are these, do you need these, or?
No,
these
if you would like to keep them, that's fine. I just need one copy of them for our file.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay. In which you all have the condensed version of the, that I printed out for you. But if you ever want to come by and see the full size of the office, I'll have them.
There you go, Liz. Give that to you.
So now, hey, you'll work on getting those signatures, before we present it to the board.
Yeah, so send you this a bit. Well, I just passed it on.
And we also need, 3 of the thumb drive, the digital copies. We got one, but we need 2.
We need 3 more.
get into the discussion of zoning applications for our public hearing on January 17th.
Yeah.
9 of them, right?
Oh, yeah, this one kind of snuck up on us and things shoved, so we got them done, but hopefully, we won't have that many.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, appreciate it. Trying to
Thank
be
you,
quiet
Dave.
now.
We normally try to keep it around 7 while we're in the moratorium, just because each rezone requires so much work to do, for administrative work. But we had some kind of pressing issues this time.
I don't know how you got all this done this time.
It was rough. Staying busy, that's all right. That's all right.
How do you pronounce his last name?
That's why everybody says a.
Yeah, and he'll just say it too.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
All right, well, we'll get into the discussion of zoning application for January 17th, 2022 public hearing. Tracy, I'll leave this up to you.
Okay.
What?
First up, Tracy Galloway, and she is requesting to rezone the 2-acre portion of her 19.14 acre A2 property to AR to allow a 2-acre split for an existing home. Property is located at 1008 Highway 172 in Colbert on map 70, parcel 86 in District 5. Now, this one is the result of some citations from our code enforcement officer. She has, in the past, been a frequent flyer of the court citations. And this last charge, she has got 3 homes on her property. And with it being 19.14 acres and in an A2, that only allows for 2 homes. So she was given the option to move it. In fact, actually tear it down because one's in bad condition. But she wants to keep them. So in order to keep all of them on her property, she's going to need to split off that 2 acres for that 3rd home, so it would be on its own tract. And we can do that under the moratorium as long as it's under the 3.99 acres. And so that is a provision under the moratorium.
So, she can legally do that, but that has nothing to do with the citations. I mean, if this place is still a mess, they'll still do the citations and stuff.
Right. And the condition, her court condition was get the 3rd home off. But she had an option to rezone. So after working with her a little bit, she's wanting to rezone it to keep that on there because she really didn't want to get rid of it. Her children live in it, and she's just trying to keep them all together there.
Any questions about that one for Tracy?
The fact that she will still have 2 homes on the parent parcel,
Mm-hmm.
does one of those homes not have to be designated as an accessory dwelling?
It does, yes.
And was that done, or has it been done?
Well, just by it being there, under the accessory dwelling allowance, as long as you have at least 10 acres and an A2, you can have 2 homes.
But as long as there's an accessory dwelling there, you must live on the property.
Yes.
Once you vacate the property or sell it or whatever, it has to be split, correct?
That's not enforced, but yes, that is correct. But we have no means of monitoring those things. But yes, the stipulation is if the property owner lives in the principal dwelling, and the accessory dwelling unit cannot be larger than the property owner's home.
So, okay, go back to what you said. So you said 2 homes could be on there,
Mm-hmm.
but now it's gotta be accessory.
Well, it's looked at as an accessory dwelling.
if there's two, then the smaller one's automatically the accessory.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
Well, but as she lived in the smaller one, how would that work then?
Well, that's funny, you have to live in one or the other, just says you have to live on the property,
Just
right?
live on the property, yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
I may have mentioned that our zoning ordinance needs a lot of work.
Time to do.
William, you got something on this one?
I was just looking in the packet, when you look at the actual, plat, and then you look at a copy of the tax map, the part that is highlighted yellow, and then what she has circled is the 19.14, it's in your left hand there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that those two correlate.
Yeah,
It's not tilted down when I looked at that,
yeah, well, you know, in our tax map,
the orientation can change when you,
it can, and it's, let me make sure.
I ended up having to look at it on the computer to figure it out.
I can't tell you now, but I
Is
did
the
satisfy
correct
myself
one
as well.
highlighted? Because that's 86.
It don't look the same, does it?
It does not, but now, that was, you know, that's an older plat. It was done in 74, so, I don't know, some things can change.
that's a good year.
Yes, it was a good year. So, I don't know, a lot of times you'll find the tax map different because, often it's not been updated. We've not had the administrative power to do that. But we try to do it as new plats come in. But in the past, some of it has not been updated.
I know, it's got one circle on the map, it's got mutual Gauss. Maybe, is that what it says? Radar Gauss or? Gauss estate, I don't know.
Yeah, it was a split from, let's see. It,
Most of them says,
Yeah, it-
Gauss says 19.14 acres, both of them say that.
yeah, and it come from an 88.63 acre tract from Willie Lee Hall.
So that's going way back.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of variance there, variation.
All right, let's go on number 2, Doug
Doug Stuchel.
Stuchel.
Okay, he is requesting to rezone a 2-acre portion of his 16.38 acre property from A2 to AR to give to son for a home site. Property is located at 1144 Shoal Creek Road in Calvert on map 59, parcel 110 in District 5. And that's just simply what he's wanting to do. His son is wanting to build on the land with his parents. And normally you can have 2 homes on a 16-acre tract in A2, but for financial reasons, he's got, you know, to get a bank note, he needs to cut out a smaller portion for finance purposes, and so that's why this rezone is necessary. And it is allowed under the moratorium because it's going to AR and under 3.99 acres.
This gonna have to be what they call the flag lot, I think, because the road frontage up front is.
Let me,
It only shows 291 feet.
91
You've got to have 150 feet for it, so.
yes, and we did discuss that.
It has to be a flag lot to get it on the backside of it, or an easement through the citizen driveway.
That was my
Absolutely.
question on that one. I looked at this one as well, because
If you'll look on the site plan, I think it's the last page on there, he, is wanting to use that same driveway.
From both.
And so, you know, it can access up to 4 parcels, so we're good there.
Well, I know
And,
on the plat, is that gonna have enough road frontage on there where you got it drawn out here on the site plan? For that 2 acres?
well, you know, as far as the road frontage goes, you know, if he's doing the easement, it's, Micah, am I saying that right? It's not really necessary as long as you provide an easement?
That's right, yeah, you can have that.
And I asked him, I said, why don't you just want to have a driveway there? And he said that it's wooded and they would like to keep it that way, and would just rather use that existing easement or driveway rather.
Well, I mean, so, so, he wants to split it, the 291, yeah, he's not gonna have the 150.
Right. So, I mean, this would qualify, is that correct?
Yeah, right, I mean, he could have done, you could put 2 acres at the back and access it with an easement, and that would be fine, because the lot that fronts on the road still has over 150 feet. But you can't split it right there on the road, I don't think.
Okay. Because I was just thinking, well, it's got an easement, so the road frontage wouldn't.
But,
Be an
see,
issue,
but where the line is, you're gonna have to cut off 2 acres of, that property will be 2 acres of his, and his son's.
Right.
The rest of it will be his, and there, one of them would have 150-foot right of way on it.
Right.
Yeah.
One of them's gonna be less than 150 feet.
That's true.
That was like, what, 9 foot to having, what, they split it equally?
Let's see, how much?
291, 300 feet would make it 150 feet each.
291.
Yeah, there's not enough to. I mean, it depends on where, I mean, he could,
He's got to alter the site plan for us to be able to.
yeah, I was trying to, that he is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I will get
So
him
you'll
a
be able
call.
to get back to him prior to our
So,
public hearing.
yeah, so alter the site plan to allow 150 feet. Well, I mean, both of them couldn't.
Now, you don't have to step the 2 acres on back off the road.
Exactly, that's what he's got, road
Okay.
frontage.
Just move this property.
He's got 2 acres on
If
the
he
road.
don't have a, yeah, if he don't have a driveway on, keep the same driveway there, he can move the prop on back, just not have the road frontage.
I gotcha, yeah. I was just thinking, okay, easement, I apologize, I should have.
Well, that is kind of logical, but I don't think it meets the letter of the.
Yeah,
the letter of the
yeah.
requirements.
Okay, any other comments or things about this one?
I hate to discuss bending the rules, but if he were to ask for a variance, I mean, is it possible that, I mean, he's 9 feet short, right?
Right.
I mean, is that something that we should or could consider under the circumstances? I don't know his reason for wanting that at the road versus being back off the road, but I hate to say bending rules.
Yeah.
Well, that's what this is here for, so
Well, he didn't have to move it all the way back to the existing house, though, he just moved back to where.
It doesn't touch the road.
Yeah, they still have no road frontage.
Theoretically, if it's back there 10 feet.
Yeah, so it can't be an administrative variance, but it can be a board approved variance under 1112C minimum lot width. So we can do that.
Would that
I
call
would
for
rather
him
see a
to,
partial
because I
road
can't
frontage
apply for a
rather than-
variance?
That's right, because it's not one you can approve, it's one that has to go through the
Right,
process.
okay. So in doing this, we probably need to hold off on the rezone or go ahead with it. and
Depends on
then
what he
do
wants to do. I mean, he
Yeah.
can either change his site plan, or he can pull it and resubmit and ask for, put a variance request with it.
Yeah, we ain't talking about 9 foot road variance.
you know, if he splits it right.
Which would we rather have, no road frontage or an easement, dealing with an easement? I'd
No
rather,
road frontage?
I'd rather
Have
have road frontage. From our standpoint.
All right, I'm making notes here.
Yeah, you got something to do on this one.
So if he doesn't want to move that, then that's when I would need to get him to come in to do the variance for the 9 feet.
That's right.
But they mentioned that their intention is to just keep the whole thing wooded.
Yeah.
You been out there? I wonder if county water is there as well.
Okay, I'll give him a call tomorrow and I'll let you guys know.
Okay. All right, Mr. Roach.
Mr. Scott, before we move on, can I move back to the one before, to pull up the map, figured out what William was asking about?
Okay.
On this one right here,
Mhm.
it's not this one. That's not 86. This one's 86. This is the one she's got.
Oh, my apologies. My
That's
apologies.
what I thought, but I forgot my iPad, so I didn't have it. Thank you.
All right, so I need to. And that was on the tax map that it was from?
Yes. Well, no, it's on the
On the plat?
tax map, right? On this old survey, somebody circled,
The 19.14.
somebody circled the wrong 1914.
Because the other one is 19.18. Oh, wait a minute. No, and I apologize. I'm with you.
Yeah, so parcel 86, which is what we're dealing with, is tracked, I can read that.
But it's not it's the other 1914, not the 1914 circle.
Okay, thank you. I was putting notes on that as well.
Put your glasses off and see it.
Well, that's the thing, I'm so nearsighted, I mean, I should have been a watchmaker. If I pull my glasses off, I can see anything.
Okay, Ms. Tracy, you get ready, Mr. Roach.
You bear with me just a
Yeah,
moment
you
here.
will.
Okay. All right, Michael and Jennifer Roach, and that's Christopher's mom and dad, are requesting to rezone their 8.65 acre property from A2 to AR to bring the lawfully non-conforming parcel into compliance with current zoning regulations. The property is located at 3048 Highway 29 North in Danielsville on map 65, parcel 12 in District 4. And the reason this is non-conforming is it is under 10 acres, and the A2 requires 10 acres now. So the next step down would be AR, and that would be the reason for this rezone. I wasn't, provided of anything that he's wanting to do with it or any intentions, it's just wanting to bring it into conformity. I have had some calls from the neighbors concerned that it could be split once it's that AR, but I think they're planning on attending the meeting, but.
And that's speculation, that's not.
Right, just calls from the joining letters that went out, property owners.
My question on this, I mean, we obviously have a tremendous, with the reshuffling that we've done, we've got a tremendous number of non-conforming zonings out there right now.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
What is the reasoning behind someone coming, just overarching here as we kind of flesh this out? What are some reasons why someone would seek this out without intentions of subdividing?
I've had that same question in my mind. I mean, we've already done a lot of these, and I don't know why people are doing them.
It's mostly an end goal that I share with you guys in the meetings, you know, we get it in under that, but then the end goal is to like cut it out, but you have to bring it into conformity.
Right, right.
I mean, there's no penalty, there's no tax ramifications, there's no.
Most of the time, it's a reason.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it from the other end. Once now you've made these lots non-conforming, that ship has sailed. How could you possibly turn down somebody that just wants to make it conforming?
You can't.
I don't know how that's
Right.
possibly justifiable.
Right.
I get what you're saying, but that's a result of having created such a huge gap between A2 and AR.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's all it is.
Right.
Now, I'm looking at this, there's no other ARs
Right.
in that area.
Right.
So the one next to it is, what is that, 17? How much acres? Well, everything around it is more than
Right.
12, I think.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean,
What's the government interest in forcing somebody to keep a non-conforming classification?
right. Yeah, it's all ag land around there.
And you can't make decisions based on what you think their intentions may be.
Right.
Well, you can't justify denying conformity because we screwed up, created too big a gap between two classifications.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Careful what you ask for.
There you go.
And the Board of Commissioner Chairman is adamant about getting all these things rezoned. He was at one point talking about doing it as a lump sum county initiative, but I don't know that we have the manpower for that.
So is that the complaints of the A1s and the A2s around there? Because they feel they're all A1s, A2s.
Yeah, there was just some concerns from a couple of neighbors, just, oh, well, they can split it, you know, make more lots, and, which under the moratorium, they could only split it one time, but that was just a concern.
And the drawing that they have there of that lake seems to take up a great amount of the area.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, I guess that's relatively, have not had the chance to go out and visit this yet.
And that's where they live as well. And I don't think the intention is to split it, but.
But now we should got buffer zone for work,
Well, even if it is.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions about this one? Not, Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Okay, now this one's a little complicated, but Jim Fitzpatrick, husband of Lita Fitzpatrick, is requesting to rezone a 3.19 acre portion of her 67.49 acre A1 property to AR to allow the tract across the road to be split off with an existing home to sell. Property is located at 2123 Highway 174, Danielsville, on map 37, parcel 29 in District 2. Now this gentleman, he's 82 years old, sharp as a tack. You would never think he was 82. Kind of like Roy Gandy was, you know, very bright. And, but he and his wife are retiring, you know, trying to get everything, selling their land, and just want to keep 10 acres of that land. They, I believe, used to live in the house across the road that we're looking at rezoning, but they have sold it and just want to have that cut off. And then the remaining portion There is a gentleman that is wanting to keep that as farmland. And, let me get my notes here. So the 55 acres that's left on it is he's selling, and the buyer we use for farming. The 10.78 acres, they would like to retain that and to continue to live on it. However, there's not a home listed on tax records. There is an existing shop with a septic tank. So that, you know, could potentially be a problem, but Christopher is allowing the 10.78 acre portion to be split off without rezoning it to A2. And that was, he said that he could rezone it at his leisure, and that was, per Commissioner Chandler and.
Wait, we're not letting record a plat. Why? How?
This one was, I was just told to do that. And it's under the farmer's exception. That's what, I was
maybe
given
that's it.
for the liquidation.
Yeah.
It's under the farmer's.
Where is that crazy thing?
Oh, it's 7 something, I think. Farmer's exemption of where,
Because it doesn't really go anywhere.
Is it in the A1?
yes, A1 and A2.
It's in both.
Yes. I guess toward the bottom of one section. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm glad you said it, because that's the answer to my question. That's
Yeah.
All right. And the lot so retained shall continue its zoning classification. That's how, okay, they're right, you can do that.
Oh, there's.
71117.
Go ahead and tell that again.
Mhm.
I want to hear that story one more time.
Yeah, I'll read it, let me make, okay, yeah, I'm right, this is A1. So, don't ask me to defend it, but I will tell you what it says. Farm owners, so this is an A1, you got an A1 piece of land. Farm owners who, because of health, financial necessity, or retirement, find it necessary to reduce their farm tract to a single lot containing their principal residential dwelling, and who intend to continue residing in such dwelling, may retain for themselves a portion of the original tract containing 2 or more acres, provided the remainder is liquidated at the same time. This exemption can be used only once per farm owner, and the lot so retained shall continue its zoning classification.
What's the number of that?
71117.
Where do they live?
They're gonna be,
I thought they lived on the 10.78 portion where you're saying.
They are, yes,
Okay.
that's where the
And that's
shop
what makes it
is.
fit that thing
Yeah.
I read.
That's what the shop is. Is that where is that their actual residence?
I thought they were living in the house, and they said no, they had already sold
That's
it to
correct.
the house. So, like I say, the 3.19 acres across the road, they're selling that with their old house on it. The 55 acres, a gentleman's buying and will continue to use it as farmland. And then the 10.78 acres is what, the Fitzpatrick's plan to keep and to continue to live on. And Christopher's allowing the 10.78 acre portion to be split without rezoning it to A2 because, you know, it's A1 now, and normally the minimum lot cut is 25 acres. But due to the farmer's exception there, or exemption, we're able to do that, and then he could rezone it at his leisure, is what I was told.
To simplify it for purposes of this board, you're not involved in plat approvals. You're just approving rezoning less than 3.99 acres that they are.
Right.
That's easy.
So we wouldn't have no say so what they do on the other.
Will they come back to us?
We hope they would, but.
Well, if they wanna rezone it, but if they don't, then if they just submit a plat for that portion, that's all administrative.
What will that 3.1, what will that be? AR?
AR, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's that moratorium exception, you can do up to 3.99 acres to AR.
And that's across the road, it's already split. It's already
Yeah.
split, so.
That's right.
Do we know for a fact he wants to leave the 10.78 acres at 81 versus 82?
I think that is the general consensus right now.
That's not for you to just, that's not part of your consideration.
Yeah, this one kind of straight before Lex, I was like, oh no, we can't do this.
It's actually a fundamental judicial principle in court cases that you never decide anything that you don't have to resolve the issue.
Mm-hmm.
So you might want to put on your black robe.
So we're only limited, we're only looking at the 3.19.
Now,
So that's.
I'm a little confused. Where do they live?
Well, I pulled up the tax record and it is, an existing shop with a septic tank, and that's what Mr. Fitzpatrick told me, and they're living in there.
Oh, so it might,
Oh, interesting.
Already living there.
so it might have a shop front or something.
But then, there's farm owners who, because of health, that kind of stipulation is set there, they may retain for themselves a portion of the original tax such like 2 acres where provided the name of the tribal scheme. But containing their principal residential dwelling and will continue residing in such dwelling.
That's what keep me, but they're living
Wow.
in a building, not a house.
Shop.
In a
shop.
barndominium.
A barndominium.
Yeah, I mean, it could, like you said, it could just be a shop front, it could meet requirements. I mean, my father-in-law knows how to do the same thing.
And I think this survey goes back to 1943.
Yeah.
Obviously, this hasn't changed hands, for anything to be brought
Yeah,
back up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my father-in-law sold the big house next to him and moved into their little storefront next door.
Okay, all right, well, we can
All
have
right.
time to go look and determine what we want to do in the public hearing. Move on to the next one.
All right, next up is Gene Nixon of Aliwine and Nixon Properties is requesting to rezone his 18.22 acre property from business to industrial to bring his lawfully non-conforming existing used auto parts sales and metal recycling business into compliance with current zoning regulations. This will require a conditional use application for the metal recycling operation. Property is located at 8611 Highway 29 South in Hull on map 32, parcel 29 in District 3. Now, the owner came in and he has no intentions of changing his business. It's just gonna continue to go as it has been. It was a grandfathered in situation. He's not making any changes to it. So that type of business belongs in an industrial zone. But when zoning was brought in, it was classed business. So the proper zoning is industrial. And I kind of was wondering what fueled the fire, and he had a potential buyer back in, I believe it was spring of last year, was a big outfit that was gonna buy him out, and they were wanting to make changes and add to it. So we were contemplating doing a rezone at that time to bring them because you can operate under grandfather, you can operate as is, but if you make any change, you have to bring it up to conformity. So we actually went through, had an appointment to do the rezone, and then and they were just push, and then all of a sudden it was just gone. So he lost the buyer to that. So although he's telling me he's not planning to sell it now, he's just wanting to bring it up into conformity in the industrial zone. Here. The reason the conditional use is needed is for the metal recycling operation. It is allowed in the industrial zone, but with a conditional use. So even though they're all existing, grandfathered in, I know we don't really supposed to say that word anymore, but lawfully non-conforming, he's just wanting to bring it up to conformity. And I have had several calls from the people in Hannah Heights concerned for future potential acts to go, because industrial opens up a whole new world where lots of more things are allowed, and it's just a lot of a change from business to industrial. And they are afraid that someone might come in and have a more intense business, make more noises, fumes, odors, that type of thing.
Well, if we prove that for industrial, there's several businesses like that right in that same area there. Would it need it?
Well, the whole point of it, so when you're talking about these uses, they have the vested rights is why you can't make them stop what they're doing when you change or probably originally put that zoning classification. But the whole idea is you've decided, or some predecessors have decided, this is not ultimately where we want industrial. This is where we want business. And we can't stop the people now, but we're not going to open it up to more. And as these people want to change their use or sell their land or whatever, they're going to have to bring it back into a business use, because that's what we ultimately want in this area. So if you don't think industry is appropriate there, that's a legitimate reason to deny that reason.
Even though it's bringing it into conformity?
Right, because it's working in the opposite direction.
How does this fit in the new comprehensive plan?
I don't know.
Or do you?
I believe it's just business.
Or do you even, you have to consider that.
Sure.
Because that's coming.
That was assumed in what I just said. I'm assuming that this is on the current as well as the coming future land use map business, not industrial.
I know if we look it up to industrial, there's another subdivision right up the road from it, and we ain't gonna be working in the fine line there where we keep it business like it is or industrial, and it may work on closer to Ingles as industrial, and you got the right across the road is subdivision.
Right.
Yeah. This may be something that is really gonna be tricky.
And they are already, having complaints with the noise during sleeping hours. It's an ongoing issue as it
And
is.
then on top of that, you got the noise ordinance that's in the works that has to be considered.
Tracy, can you help me understand, under industrial, I'm looking at the permitted and conditional uses under industrial, and I see automobile junkyards, which is basically what this is, listed under conditional uses industrial. I don't see anything like that that would fit business, so I thought, well, maybe it would be appropriate for that to be industrial. But I don't see anything anywhere under metal recycling operation. How was it derived that he would need a conditional use for metal recycling?
I was advised to do that by Christopher.
Yeah, you know, that's another junkyard right up the road.
Mhm.
So,
That's an actual junkyard.
yeah.
Yeah, that's, you got a recycling business, and then you got a junkyard.
Yeah.
So is he actually doing something with the recycled metal on his?
Oh, yeah, they buy metal.
Any kind of metal.
That's where I take my scrap metal to down there.
But I mean, is he doing something with the metal or he's selling it off?
He sells it off, they haul it off somewhere.
So he may not be causing noises like if he was really recycling and doing something, if he's just hauling it off.
Well, I don't think so. If the neighbors are complaining about noise, somebody's making
Well, he's
noise, doing something.
he's auto mechanic, I understand. But what I'm saying, why would it fall under industrial? Like he's
I don't know why the noise, I thought the biggest equipment down there, they got front end loaders and stuff, and maybe crushing some small crushing, but they don't do that at night.
I wasn't thinking it would
I think it
either.
closed at 5 o'clock down there anyway.
Well, I'm just thinking industrial, you're recycling and doing something with that metal on the site. Industrial. But recycling is not the same as that's hauling off, so how would that fall up under the industrial?
That's what I was about to do.
Well, let's back them up. Got a lot of questions for the public
So the
hearing.
question is, what's the appropriate zone for metal recycling as opposed to a junkyard? And we don't have recycling as a use anywhere, right?
They do both right now, right? I mean, it's a
Right.
junkyard and they do recycling.
Begs the question of what is recycling?
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Is he doing something, recycling with the metal and doing something on his site by recycling that, but he's saying he's hauling it off. So,
Right.
I know they buy any and all scrap metal, they buy what aluminum cans to copper
Okay.
and,
But I don't,
So that's, that may
do
be.
they buy junk cars?
they buy junk cars and they haul them off.
But it's not just, a junkyard may sell stuff
A
off of
junkyard
recycling, but he's not just.
reselling parts off of old cars.
Right, exactly.
This thing is recycled, they crush them up or whatever.
He's
they
not
do.
just taking cars, he's taking cans.
And
My old kid, my son, thought it over, finally called off the other day.
Scrap metal.
so that's what I'm saying, performing an industrial
Yeah.
business, you're doing something with that on your, if he's just recycling, that means he's just taking it in and recycling it out. Unless he's doing something, by recycling that metal on there, he's breaking it down and making it into something different.
I don't deal with them folks, but do they crush them cars?
They may flatten them with a forklift or something else. I hadn't seen actually a car crusher down there. It may be, but.
I mean, that would just change the whole.
Yeah, but I'm saying, if he just, with junkyard, that's business. But if he's recycling and doing something to rechange that, but recycle means you're not.
See, they may pull an old car down there and take the wheels out, got that wheel off and take it. They got the place now where you can buy it, spare parts with it, I think.
Yeah.
Then the metal car, they just crush, cause I've seen them haul loads of cars, they flatten. I don't know how they flatten them, but haul them off and go towards, Athens.
Actually, auto junkyards are not business, they're industrial with conditional use.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Well, this should be an interesting.
But when you have something, this is a general rule for whatever source, there's a provision in here we put in a while back that, if somebody's proposing a use that we don't have listed, then you look to the National Association of Industry Classification Standards listings, compare the proposed use to the NAICS categories for what we do have and figure out which one is most similar to, and that's where it goes.
And I think in that case, and I think most of us know where that is, we need to look at the surroundings of that particular business. That is one that you can imagine what's gonna happen in the future. You know, there's a lot of housing and stuff all around there. You know, so like Tracy was saying, if you make it industrial, then you open up a huge can of worms.
That's where you go
from
back
leaving
to
that business.
question you and Kenneth both, I think, raised, what does the new future land use map say?
Yeah.
That's gonna be, I think,
That's gonna
probably
be,
your most important consideration.
Because, yeah, you can do a lot more with industrial.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And that's what those neighbors are concerned about, and I had calls from them.
Okay, well, I'm sure someone will show up.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
All right, moving on.
All right, next up, Byron Sexton. He is requesting to rezone his 21.95 acre property from A1 to A2 to bring the lawfully non-conforming parcel into compliance with current zoning regulations. Property is listed at 255 Collins Dudley Road in Danielsville on map 61, parcel 34 in District 4. And what this is family property that he had purchased from one of his aunts, and it has a house and a mobile home on it. So the end goal here is he's wanting to split off the mobile home and then leave the house on one section. So under the moratorium, the only way we can do this is a two-step process, which we've discussed some in the past. So currently he is non-conforming because he only has 21.95 acres in an A1 zone, and of course the minimum now is 25. So the next step down would be A2. So we would first have to rezone it from A1 to A2, and then next month he would have to come in for the second part and rezone a 3.99 acre portion with the house off and to AR, and then the mobile home will be on the rest of the land. So it's the first step of two.
Sounds fairly simple. Any questions on this one? Now we'll move forward.
All right, Mark Pierce, he is requesting to rezone his 4.89 acre property from A2 to AR to bring the lawfully non-conforming parcel into compliance with current zoning regulations and to allow 2.46 acres to be split and absorbed into the adjoining property, map 10, parcel 65. The property is located at 229 Morgan Road in Danielsville on map 10, parcel 66 in District 1. And what he's wanting to do is to sell the adjoining property, to sell that property to his adjoining property owner, Ms. Dyer, and that would be a 2.46 acre tract. He has a house under construction and is trying to start back on it. He's had a slow down with it, and he wants to keep that remaining on the 2.43 acres. So basically he's got 4.89 acres. It is zoned A2, which that is non-conforming, not 10 acres. So the next step down would be AR, and that would allow the absorption of that property to Ms. Dyer. But first, this hinges on the second one that's down there, Mark Pierce, applicant for Jennifer Dyer. This is the neighbor. So right now, her property is also zoned A2. So we're having to do that in conjunction for that absorption to be made. So Ms. Dyer wants to purchase the 2.46 acres from Mr. Pierce. So she's got to rezone her property to match his. And then, Ms. Dyer plans on combining that with her existing tract, and she will end up with a 5.31 acre tract. And then Mr. Pierce will end up with 2.43 acres.
Okay, I have to ask the one-step versus two-step process on this one. Since he's taking the 4.89 acres and rezoning it AR, correct?
Correct.
And but he's wanting to split off he's wanting to split that into 2.43 and 2.46. He's gonna sell off 2.46 and join it with 2.85 neighbor. That's what's Does this not need to be rezoned first and then split later? Is it a two-step process?
No, sir, actually, once you bring this parcel into conformity, it doesn't matter what they do with it at that point. Is that right, Mike? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, I mean.
And we're just adding that to tell you why they're wanting to do it, but.
Exactly, yeah, again, zoning, y'all don't do plat approvals, y'all just do zoning. So once you've assigned the zoning classification, then the plat approvals go through them, and as long as the plats meet the requirements, including lot sizes for the assigned zoning, it gets approved.
So it's just basically bringing it into compliance, but that's
Well,
the end
could
goal.
combine it, but doesn't have to.
Right, exactly.
Do we need to do 7, then 8, or we need to do 8 and then 7?
Well, I just picked his since his was, the part to do his first, because he was selling that part of it, but, I mean, they'll be done in conjunction, of course, but.
I mean, it's an entire area of 2.5 acre lots.
Right, yeah.
So sister, you're just gonna take this A2 and make it 2 AR.
And that would bring them into compliance. Would you like me to read off the second one that we mentioned, the Mark Pierce for Jennifer Dyer?
I think
We got it?
we're pretty well
Okay.
okay with all that.
Okay.
You're good to go to number 9.
All right, last, Chester Mingledorf is requesting to rezone a 3.99 acre portion of his 37.79 acre property from A1 to AR, split off for a family member to live on. The property is located at 2546 Wesley Chapel Road in Danielsville on map 10, parcel 72 in District 1. And this is actually going to be for his niece to live on. And it's allowed under the moratorium under the 3.99 AR rezone.
I noticed they got two A2s right, about 1 acre apiece on the front of that.
Which one are you looking at, Kim? This one.
Yeah. Shaded in yellow. There's actually three 1 acre lots on that. It's all considered A1, right? A2s?
All A2. What are A2?
Yeah.
Basically, you have to know what the road frontage is on that, but it's moved to 150.
On the deep 3.99 acre lot.
Okay.
That's to be on the very last page, I don't know if there's a.
All right, let's take a look.
Oh, yeah, if I'm looking at it correct, it's 159.97.
Yes.
Gary.
Yeah,
I
59.97.
I know, right? So, yeah, just bear with me, he can do it.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions on this one? All right. Moving on into old business. Number one, consider amending the zoning ordinance to add section 4.7 subdivision plat approval.
So this is the part that we looked at from our other discussions, and I just would like to say it has caused so much confusion just approving part of those amendments, agenda-wise and the VOC-wise. We kind of had we had to revise the resolution pages, so it's been a little tricky when you just do sections of each one. But anyway, we got it handled though.
Okay, this is a public hearing tonight, right? on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that is correct, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Open the public hearing.
It's easy to, that's why.
Okay. All right, you wanna read these, Tracy, and I'll do the hearing part of that stuff.
All righty,
Number one.
You'll have to forgive me, I did not bring my amendments after all this stuff. I'm sorry, y'all.
Okay.
I had so much to do with this.
Give you everything you need?
All right, so bear with me just a second, I apologize.
Yeah.
I left my folders of that and I had so many files out upstairs. All right, so that first one that we're going to be voting on is to add that section 4.7 under subdivision plat approval, and this is for the zoning ordinance. And it's just to insert the new section 4.7. And I don't know if you want me to read each one.
Well, we're gonna vote on these we're gonna do the public hearing on these one at a time or all together?
I think we'll do it on, I would think we do it one at a time. I think what Tracy meant was the 471, 472, and 473. But, if you don't mind, I can just summarize. This is just,
Okay, go ahead.
this is just fleshing out sort of what hasn't, and the next one actually is related, 12.1. It says kind of too short and with too many assumptions that you cannot divide property in a way that violates subdivision regulations or the zoning ordinance. And if you try to do so, whether it's by deed or plat or any other method, that's a violation of the zoning ordinance, period.
That's number one, correct?
That's number one, that's number two, and then number three is a clarification that, again, as we've always known, that the county does not enforce private covenants.
That's all in the 4.7 that he was reading. 1, 2, 3.
Can I just ask you one question?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to ask you because, I'm just with that 4.7, that's 4.72?
Two, okay.
Yeah, okay, it says any owner or developer of any lot situated within the county who subdivides the same shall cause a plat of such subdivision. Okay, Can you kind of, because then it goes into a reference to the known or permanent monument.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can understand, when it gets to that, the same shall cause a plat of such subdivision, okay, with reference to known permanent monument to be made. So, can you kind of clarify that little section?
Sure. Basically, that's saying you cannot, you can't just deed off property without bringing a plat through planning and zoning for approval. If Bruce owns 5 acres and he wants to give 2 acres to somebody or sell 2 acres to somebody, you can't just do a deed. You've got to do a plat.
That's been a big loophole, like,
So,
taking a void.
can that just be simplified like that? Because when, I mean, if I read it, you know, it's a public, when it says, shall cause a plat of such subdivision, I mean, then it says reference to a known permanent monument.
Yeah, I
You
mean.
clarified it much better than.
I copied this out of Oconee County, where I get a lot of stuff from, because I do a lot of work with their attorney, and I'm familiar with their ordinance, so. I mean, if you want to strike with reference to known or permanent monuments, that would be fine.
Yeah, because that sounds like the monument, something that's standing there.
Well, that's just a surveying term. Means with reference to an iron pin set, an iron pin found, you know, any of the things that surveyors are required to use by the surveying standards of their own association.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, all right.
All right,
So now that you explained it, that's much clearer.
any further discussion on the subdivision plat approval? Not, I'll open up the public hearing for anyone that wants to speak in favor of this, changing this, subdivision plat approval process. Hearing none, is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition to? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the board for a motion to approve or deny. 4.7.1, 4.7.2, and 4.7.3.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like
Yes,
to
sir.
move that, we approve this.
A motion to approve, Andy?
I'll second.
We have a second by Kenneth. Any further discussion? All right, we'll start with you, Kenneth.
Yes.
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 Yes. Roll call. 6-0 to approve. Okay. Item 3, agenda item 3.2, administrative enforcement and penalties. Lisa?
Okay. So this is consider amending the zoning ordinance section 12.1, zoning administrator, to allow for an edit to be made in the section regarding new parcel divisions or splits as presented in proposed amendments for division of property. So this is basically just striking that last sentence where it says all plats representing new parcel divisions or splits must first be approved and stamped by the zoning administrator or his authorized agent before being eligible for recording. And Mike, is that?
And we're striking this because now that has been addressed much more thoroughly in the 4.7 that you just passed.
Okay.
Specifically 4.7.2.
Correct.
You took that up by itself, I guess. Any other questions or discussion?
And is that the only salient change for this, is just deleting that one.
Deleting those 2 lines, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I will open the public hearing. Does anyone wants to speak in favor of this change of striking this sentence? Hearing none, is there anyone wants to speak in opposition to? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the board for a motion to approve or deny. I will make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Canola Scott, second by Kenny, to approve, section 12.1 zoning administration, striking that sentence. Any discussion? If not, I'll be yes.
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 6-0 to approve. Next.
Okay, next up is consider amending the subdivision regulations in section 10.2, duration and release for road bonds, and section 9.0, application for final plat approval in D number 2. And these were, it was as presented with the road bond amendments, but with minor revisions made at the December 20th, 2022 planning and zoning meeting, and I put the reflected changes. So basically, in section 10.2, the bond or letter of credit be for a period of, and it did say 12 months, and that's going to 2 years, after approval of the final plat and the acceptance of the improvements by the Board of Commissioners, is striking that pursuant to sections 9 and 5.13 and add, and otherwise shall comply with the requirements of section 9 hereof.
Well, 5.13 is something totally unrelated, as I recall.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that was just kind of a little error
I
there.
got a question. I know on age proposal, he had 4 years bond.
Right.
Would this take over the 4 years, or do they get that?
No, 4 years is specific, it's a condition of that one, so it overrides this. And that's because, I don't know if you, but you know, that was that weird one where it was built years ago and never developed, and it was kind of uncertain as to what requirements you have to meet. So it was a good negotiated resolution, you know.
I know Alan at the road department said that it would be very beneficial to have a 4-year road bond with this one, so that's subdivision.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, back to this, it's 2 years. So it went from 1 year to 2 years. And then in conjunction is section 9.0, application for final plat approval, D number 2. And that's road maintenance bonds in an amount adequate to assure proper performance and maintenance are required on all subdivisions. The amount to be determined by the chairman in the reasonable exercise of his discretion. The bonds are to stay active for, instead of 1 year, 2 years, following the date of the approval of the final plat, and at that time, the developer may request a release on the bond.
And it's the same bond in both. Why it's described two places, I don't know.
I know.
This is not changing, but it's,
Just making them consistent.
Probably can take that up as one vote, couldn't we?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
okay.
I think is that the way it was on the agenda? I can't remember, but yeah.
So this was written like this already?
well, the question I have about what I said already, was already in there, is that the chairman has a discretion to set the bond, at his discretion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
That's not something that's changing, but that's kind of odd to me.
Yeah, I mean, as a practical matter, I think it's always 100% of whatever the repair cost is.
So why doesn't it have space? I mean, it's just too broad. It's not giving anybody guidelines that okay, what is the discretion based on? But I guess we're not going on that.
Yeah, I mean, that, nobody proposed changing that, so I didn't touch it. I only look at what's being proposed to change.
So can we propose that?
Y'all.
Well, you can put any kind of proposed change to it, you know, they have the right to approve or disapprove whatever we say, you know, but if this board, my opinion of, if this board sees something that is inconsistent or we think that deserves to be changed, then I see no reason we can't bring it up. So, that will be up to,
If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, if we go back to section 10.3, we had the 2 years in 10.2. We changed to 12 months to 2 years, and we struck out the reference to 5.13.
9.0 and 5.13.
No, we still have nine.
We kept the 9.0, but then subsequent in the next paragraph, we have another reference to section 5.13 and 9.0. And I don't see that. I don't see a 5.13.
You don't know what 5.13 is.
Well, you don't see it in our ordinances. So I think just for consistency, we just take 5.13 out of that.
Yeah, that was proposed to be struck through.
No, it's in section 10.3.
I mean, in that fact, it's in 10.1 as well.
That's what I was getting, it's in 10.3.
Oh.
There is a 5.13.
Yeah.
There is. On the subdivision rules, street improvements and deed conveyance.
Look at Article 5, application regulations.
Come think of
Yeah, what's your age?
it. Page 23.
23 under the subdivision rules.
Yeah.
9.3.
Yeah, actually, it makes sense in 10.3, because 5.13 is addressing acceptance of the deed by the board of commissioners. Actually, for that matter, it made sense in 10.2, now that I'm looking at it, because it says acceptance of the improvements by the board of commissioners. I mean, it doesn't matter one way or the other. But
So you proposing to change something there, or you just,
No,
just for clarification?
Asking for clarification.
Okay. So 10.1 tells you the actual cost.
and other required improvements dedicated to the county under 5.13.2. Now, in my subdivision regs, there's not a 5.13.2, there's 5.13. It says, street improvements shall be installed and provided by the subdivider and conveyed by deed to Madison County upon acceptance by the board of commissioners.
Any further discussions or questions on this particular one?
The 10.3.
Under 10 point, on all of them, 10.01, 2, and 3.
Does the 10.1 connect, are they connect to each other? So that's what is 20%?
Oh, I said 100%, it is 20%, you're right. That's where it is. The bond or letter of credit shall be payable to the county in, it's 20%.
Actual
Or
cost.
if it can't be readily determined, and 20% is estimated by the chairman of the board of commissioners in reasonable exercise of his discretion. That's where it comes in.
Oh. So why ain't they stated in 10.3? It just says to his discretion, or their discretion.
It's at 9.0 D2 is where it leaves out that. Again, I try not to go too far. At some point, I've gone beyond looking at what they sent me to review, and I just started doing everybody else's job for them, would rewrite the whole zoning ordinance. But beyond that, I'd say, I don't know originally why road bonds are addressed in both 9.0 and 10. Seems to me you could have done it in one place. It would have been a lot less confusing. But that's a bigger revision than, I think, the genesis of this idea, which was changed 1 year to 2 years.
All right, with that, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody here that wants to speak approval of changing the wording in this 10.0, 10.1, 10.2, or 10.3? As well as 9.0, number 2. Hearing none. Then anybody want to speak in opposition?
You're talking to the vote.
Yes, I am. I'm talking to an empty chair. Hearing none?
Man, no respect.
Hearing none? Hearing none, bring it back to the board for a motion. Now?
Well, I don't know how.
Make the motion.
A motion to clarify, or how can we say this? The 10.1 should reference the 10.3.
Well,
And then the 9.0.
you can only vote on specific language that's in front of you. So unless you want to start rewriting it tonight, you either approve what's there or make a motion to postpone it.
Okay.
What you can do also is approve what's here, and our next business meeting propose a change
Absolutely.
for us to consider to send to the commission.
Yes, sir.
That's one way of doing it.
Yes, sir.
I'll leave that up to you.
So I can either postpone it, or ask for postpone it, or ask that we approve it, and then it be brought up at our next meeting.
Yes, you can bring it up as new business at our next meeting to add a consideration to.
Sure, it'd just be another change, and that's not unusual. When you're making one change, you've noticed other things that need to be changed, but they need to come back through the same process. Y'all draft the language, I review it, it comes here, public hearing.
So what would be easier, either just postpone it and let you look at it, or they look at it, or?
I think
the easiest thing to do is approve what's in front of you,
Okay.
and then our next business meeting, you propose a change in the language of whichever one you're dissatisfied with.
And the reason for that, if you always postpone things because you notice something else that needs to be changed, you'll never make any changes. In 3 years, you'll just have this big growing pile of changes.
We got a lot of ground covered before the moratorium ends too.
So our next, I make a proposal for motion that we accept 10.3 as is.
10.2.
I thought we said 10.2.
And 9.0.
The language is only changing in 10.2 and 9.0.
Oh, okay, so the language changed, okay, I was looking only at 10.3. So I would make a proposal that we accept the language in section 10.2 as is, and are we doing 10.3 separately or?
No, are we doing?
9.0.
Okay.
10.2 and 9.0.
9.0. And 9.0, that's it, fine.
Okay, we have a motion by Cynthia to accept the changes from 10.2 and 9.0 to the language. I get a second.
I'll second.
Motion by Cynthia, second by Kenneth. Any further discussion? Lee?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. I think that covers most of our business tonight. Anything else that needs to be brought up?
Notes on the front.
Chairman, I do have a question. I sent out the updated membership list, and I had asked you guys to just review it and make sure your numbers are right and your terms are right. I heard back from William, but I hadn't heard back from anybody else. I just wanted to make sure your information was correct on it.
All the other kids can pick on William.
I know, right? William gets the teacher pet award.
He gets 100, rest of us fail.
I think I looked at mine, everything on mine was okay.
Okay.
Before we adjourn, Cynthia, I do want to say that keep in mind what you
Oh, yeah.
you know, because that's part of our job too, is that we recognize the stuff that needs to be changed to, or we're not clear on or dissatisfied with, we need to look at it and have a discussion. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask you to kind of follow up, if you don't mind, on our training. We kind of talked about this. I know for my duration of my existence,
You got that
and if you don't mind, I would ask you to follow up on that.
I think that's very appropriate, because it looks like it's kind of falling by the wayside again. I think that's appropriate, and I will do that.
Thank you.
And this is a regarding follow-up on the training for,
P&Z members.
oh, okay, okay.
And I've also, just for your information, talked to Commissioner May about filling the vacant position. He seems to be having trouble finding someone, so I gave him a name. So he assured me that he would contact that person and talk to them and make his own determination as to whether he wanted that particular person, if he wanted to appoint that particular person or not. So I'll be waiting to hear from him shortly.
Does that person reside in his district?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. I think the bylaws say if you can't find anybody in his district, then he can get somebody from anywhere.
Yeah, 60 days, I think it is.
Something
Something of that
nature.
nature. We read that as well.
Yes. But that person does live in his district. And not trying to, get who we want, but, since he's having problems, I think it's good for all of us, and we know some good people that's willing to work, to give them, to recommend somebody. With that, Tracy, you have anything else?
That should do it.
Attorney, you have anything else?
No, sir.
Any more members? Not, I mean, a motion to adjourn. I'll make it.
I'll second, yes, we don't want
All in favor?